I think was important is seeing people speak up. And some of you have seen that study that said if 3.5% of the population speaks up, you'll see change or whatever. I could feel it out there when the past few months, I started going to these Republican districts after I saw the Republican leader tell them, don't go, don't do these town halls because you would have to defend cuts to Medicare, cuts to Social Security, and you're going to have these nasty clips that are going to be out there. That offended me on many levels. It offended me as a former member of Congress because I stood in those town halls in the summer of 2010 when the ACA was being debated and just got hammered. But I was proud to stand there because I was going to support the ACA and I voted for it. I think these town halls, going into these places, engaging people in non-traditional settings is the way to do it because, look, a lot of Democrats showed up for that, but a lot of independents showed up and some Republicans. And I did a town hall with Beto O'Rourke in Fort Bend, Texas, Deep Red, Texas or whatever. Huge crowd. And some of the people who showed up were anti-vaxxers. And one guy put out, his anti-vax stuff. I reminded him they had a measles outbreak. We had a little dialogue. But afterwards he said, well, I just wanted to talk to the congressman about this. I'm glad you came to do it. He didn't support me. He wasn't there for the same thing, but he was there to speak out. So I think there is this movement that the public discourse, the idea of free speech, the idea of petitioning your government, they're trying to basically criminalize that. Seeing a president say, if you come and protest this, there'll be bad things happen to you.
Donald Trump's military parade, if you can even call it that, will be the humiliation that never ends, not only because of the tiny crowd size, not only because of the tens of millions of dollars wasted on it, but because even Republicans at this point are mocking Trump, and he is losing his mind. We are going to get into the scathing takedown that has Trump furious over his failures. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our channel. Before we can get into Donald Trump's posting meltdown last night and Republicans mocking him for the parade, I want to start with a Democrat talking about a different and equally important horrible use of our military. That was Adam Schiff breaking down what's happening in LA right now.
There to help out during earthquakes and floods and fires. We have a very special bond of trust with the National Guard. And so to see it misused this way, to potentially erode that trust, we also venerate the Marines, but to call in the Marines for no other reason, I think, than to add fuel to the fire is a terrible abuse of the military. So,
Senator, let me ask you about that. President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard, the Marines, despite the fact that California Governor Gavin Newsom said he did not need that, did not want that. President Trump said the city would have, quote, burned to the ground without his aid. Do you think local officials had that situation under control?
Yes, I do. And, let's call the president's statement what it is, and that's just a flat-out lie. The idea that Los Angeles would have burnt to the ground, it's absurd. These demonstrations were taking place in a multi-block area in a city that is 500 square miles. Our police and our sheriff's office and our highway patrol are more than capable of dealing with this. And if they won't, and they weren't, then the mayor and the governor would request the help of our guard. That was not done. It was not necessary. And I think this is just Donald Trump doing what he wanted to do in the first administration, which was essentially use the military for domestic law enforcement to make himself look tough. In the first administration, there were at least a few people in the cabinet of some independents who could say, no, Mr. President, that's a lawless idea, that's a stupid idea. But there's no one in this current administration to tell the president that's a stupid idea. It will make matters worse. And there are nothing but sycophants, the Stephen Millers and the Kristi Noems and all the rest of them. And so we are seeing this terrible escalation, this increasing lawlessness. The district court was right to find it lawless. Now that Marines are engaged in an arrest, at least one arrest and detention, then that will be challenged too, and I think that too will be found to be lawful.
Yesterday, Donald Trump's parade, and I'm going to continue to put it in quotes, really did overshadow what is still happening in LA, which is an attack being launched by Donald Trump's mass thugs and ICE. and the Marines he sent there to create conflict, which is exactly what they did over and over. We saw these thugs attack peaceful protesters, shooting tear gas at people, simply standing on the street and marching peacefully, carrying signs, not weapons, not bricks to throw. As Donald Trump always alleges, that is what is happening. Donald Trump is using and abusing the military from coast to coast, and it is incredibly scary, especially as he purports to care about the military but doesn't even know what's going on with our current foreign affairs. Just take a look at this post that Donald Trump made in the middle of the night last night. After his failed parade, Trump wrote, "The U.S. had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight. If we attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. However, we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel, and in this bloody conflict." Trump also posted, "What a great parade, thank you, Army." He doesn't even know what's going on. This is a complete embarrassment that our leader is a man in such cognitive decline that not only can he not properly respond to conflicts, but his brain is so broken that he can't even be briefed on them without a sparkly Fox News cartoon presentation. He is completely out of it. And it is terrifying that his only care about the military comes when he can use them as a prop. And that is exactly what was called out by Republican Senator Rand Paul. And I know this has Trump furious.
You know, I'm all for the president appearing and doing enlistment ceremonies at military bases. I've been with the president at Dover to receive home our dead soldiers, and so those who have been killed in action, and to mourn their loss. But I just never liked the idea of the parade, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and the only parades I can remember are Soviet parades for the most part, or North Korean parades. And the parades I remember from our history were different. You know, everybody remembers that famous scene of the soldier, you know, dipping the girl and kissing the girl in New York in a ticker tape parade. But we were rejoicing the end of war, and we were rejoicing our soldiers coming home. And that absolutely ought to be commemorated and discussed every year, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. But we never glorified weapons so much. And I know he means well. I don't think he means for any of this to be depicted in another fashion, but I'm just not a big fan. And then there is the cost. I mean, we're $2 trillion in the hole, and just an additional cost like this, I'm not for it.
Mocking Trump by comparing his parade to Russia and North Korea, I think would make anyone else upset if Donald Trump didn't love the leaders of those dictators that run those two countries. So maybe he likes that. But again, Rand Paul kind of just said, yeah, this was a joke yesterday. I wish he had made a little comment about the size of things. But yeah, everyone could see it. Marco Rubio was falling asleep. Joni Ernst, who I can't stand, looked visibly unsettled the entire time. No one wanted to be there. Most of all, probably the men and women marching in the parade. My favorite clip by far was a tank rolling down the street, wheels screeching as people sat in silence. Nobody cared, except for the taxpayers who have to front the bill for Donald Trump. It was an embarrassment, and it needs to be continued to be called out, because it is not only corruption, it's incompetence, it's waste. It is all the things that this Trump administration stands for, many of which were called out by Tim Walz just the other day. And I want to take a look at what he had to say.
So as a member of Congress, I helped pass and create what was called the Council of Governors by law. And the Council of Governors was 10 governors appointed by the president, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, who worked with the Department of Defense, who worked with FEMA, who worked with the administration to coordinate how our National Guard interfaced and how emergency services interfaced. And then I had no idea when I did that in 2014 that I would later become a governor and be the co-chair of the thing that I created. And it was, I look like a genius, but trust me, it was not. It was not Forrest Gump. And so I served in that, and I worked with it under, putting it in when President President Obama was there, was appointed, to it by President Trump the first time he was president. He had me be the co-chair. And then President Biden had me stay on as co-chair. And then President Trump fired me on January 21st this year. But the whole point of that is understanding how this works. And what you're seeing, while they go to historical reference points where LBJ used it in 65 or whatever, there's no analogy to how this is being used here. No request locally, no coordination locally, a federalization of the Guard. And the thing is about the Guard, they can be used in the civil inside the states without violating posse comitatus. But they are not a police force. They need to be accompanied with law enforcement. Law enforcement does law enforcement. National Guard does that. And some of them are helicopter pilots, some of them are tankers, some of them are supply sergeants. They do different jobs. So to expect this, you use them in emergencies, to expect them to be able to carry this out is a very dangerous situation for them and can be for the public if the coordination's not good. So I'll just have to tell you, just a gross overreach, and then we can get into it over, but the idea of federal troops on there, they didn't invoke the Insurrection Act, by the way. And I think I don't know why they didn't actually. And by the way, George Bush in Katrina used the Insurrection Act correctly in Katrina, pretends, it's probably debatable, I guess, but to try and in New Orleans, and then there was a fear that he was creepingly going to just continue to use it, so there was a pushback in Congress, and myself and Tom Davis, the Republican congressman from Virginia, reinstituted that, and we put the Insurrection Act back in, and now we're back again. So it's a dangerous time. It's an inappropriate use. I saw the courts put a stay on it, and then the appeals courts overturned it. Just unprecedented, dangerous, according to local officials who know best, totally unnecessary other than a provocative move. So.
And what do you think people should do in this moment?
People in general?
Yeah, the public, all of us, leaders.
Yeah. Well, I think stay informed. I mean, I'm not telling you anything, it's not life coaching or whatever, but don't be doom scrolling through TikTok or whatever. That's not helpful at this point in time. Although all of mine are about dogs, so it is helpful in that regard. So the algorithm's working. I think it's continue to speak up, and the reason I am so concerned, the inability of the legislative branch, Article 1 of the Constitution, to take any of their authority and to capitulate is stunning to me. Why would you get elected if you didn't do that? You could maybe agree, and to see this gross overreach. What I think was important is seeing people speak up, and some of you have seen that study that said if 3.5% of the population speaks up, you'll see change or whatever. I could feel it out there when the past few months, I started going to these Republican districts after I saw the Republican leader tell them, don't do these town halls because you would have to defend cuts to Medicare, cuts to Social Security, and you're going to have these nasty clips that are going to be out there. That offended me on many levels. It offended me as a former member of Congress because I stood in those town halls in the summer of 2010 when the ACA was being debated and just got hammered. But I was proud to stand there because I was going to support the ACA and I voted for it. I think these town halls, going into these places, engaging people in non-traditional settings is the way to do it because, look, a lot of Democrats showed up for that, but a lot of independents showed up and some Republicans. And I did a town hall with Beto O'Rourke in Fort Bend, Texas, Deep Red, Texas or whatever. Huge crowd, and some of the people who showed up were anti-vaxxers. And one guy put out, his anti-vax stuff. I reminded him they had a measles outbreak. We had a little dialogue. But afterwards he said, well, I just wanted to talk to the congressman about this. I'm glad you came to do it. He didn't support me. He wasn't there for the same thing, but he was there to speak out. So I think there is this movement that the public discourse, the idea of free speech, the idea of petitioning your government, they're trying to basically criminalize that. Seeing the president say, if you come and protest this, there'll be bad things happen to you. So I'm encouraging people to do that, to speak out, to go into the lane you think you need to be in.
And you're speaking at No Kings event tomorrow?
I am tomorrow in St. Paul. We know how to,
You might want to just say what a No Kings event is.
Yeah. Yeah, you should, if you have nothing else to do for 8 hours, go watch that hearing yesterday.
We are marching towards authoritarianism, and it becomes more incumbent upon us every single day to fight back. We saw that yesterday with No King's Day. We will continue to fight, be out in the streets using our voices. I promise you, we're doing that on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.